Hello.
Hello.
Do you want to go first or you want me to go first?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Hello, everyone. To everyone that is watching live and to those who will watch later, we are so glad you are here with us today.
It is a privilege and an honor. And I would like to invite you, anyone, whoever is watching right now, to just stop and take a deep breath and feel how honored we are that you are here with us right now.
Yes, yes. It is a gift for both of us to talk about magic, about spirit, how it can be the alchemist to transform our lives. And I always had wanted that being spiritual, being this enlightened being meant that you walk through life free of pain, free of problems. But that is not reality. And I know when I heard those words, it's not the truth, it's not reality. I immediately, so fast, faster than I would blink, I went, no, that's not true. And because I was so dissociative back then, I wasn't able to hear the truth. I was so good at pushing it away. Part of allowing the magic into my life is sitting in the presence of whatever is going on, period. I'll give you an example. I went to San Francisco Sunday so that I met with this company, which I thought was the consulate, but it wasn't. But anyway, so that I could get my papers in order to move to Portugal. And on the flight home, we were coming into the airport, and all of a sudden the pilot took the plane and went like this, and everybody was looking at each other. Thank God I could breathe. I mean, not the fear shallow breath, but deep breaths into my belly. And there was lightning everywhere and thunder and rain coming down really hard. And we were in the air for over a half hour. And the pilot didn't say anything. I call them stewardesses still. I'm from the old school. Flight attendants, that's the word. They didn't say anything. And I just kept breathing. And I closed my eyes and I looked within to all of the beings that walk with me every single moment of my life. And I could hear, "You're safe. It's okay. Keep breathing." Now, that did not mean that this body that I live in was free of fear. My body was afraid. The whole plane was filled with anxiety. But I kept breathing and knowing I was safe because I am the conscious chooser in my life. That's the difference. Can you be the conscious chooser in your life no matter what is going on? Because life sometimes really does hand us a plate of awful stuff to work with. And I was so grateful that I could breathe. And when we landed, I was so glad. I got home at midnight and I sang hallelujah because I was home safe. That is the miracle of this breath. It allows you to be in the core of you no matter what happens, no matter what difficulty arises. And you breathe in this empowered, comforting breath that wraps its arms around your body, filling you with a stability so deep that you can be in the circumstance, the event that is scary and not run away. I'm proud of myself that I was able to stay so present. I didn't go away. I didn't dissociate. I did go gulp. especially when we hit an air pocket and we literally dropped, and I felt myself rise in my seat, and I went, holy crap. And then I thought, oh, I could never be a flight attendant. But I am filled with gratitude because this breath is the empowerment, it is the strength of each and every one of us. Go, Tanya.
Yes, 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 and yes again, over and over and over. It's interesting because when we start realizing that assuming fully, really taking this truth that we are divine humans a step further, which is really living this truth, we realize, oh, wait a minute, this has not made me more ethereal or more removed. It has made me even more human. Oh, what a surprise.
Yeah.
And you start realizing that we all go through phases that we need to be away from people for a while, that we feel a bit discombobulated when we are in the midst of big crowds, that we feel people's energies and emotions, etc., more intensely, and that has a kind of a disconcerting effect. And we all go through phases like that when we are on our journey of I'd rather than call it awakening, I would like to call it journey of fusion.
Yes.
It is a journey of fusion. It is going beyond separation. And while we are on that journey where we start realizing that we are not separate, because the interesting thing here is that we have never really been separate. We have just created a kind of a fictional reality and set of beliefs that has put in place the illusion of separation. That's why it's called an illusion of separation, because in actual fact, it is impossible. And please really sink this in. It is impossible to be separate, because we cannot not be what we truly are. Full stop. There is no way around this. But the way this reality here on earth is created for the purpose of us to be able to experience just about anything, we come to believe very, very strongly in that separation. And so we come to believe that our divinity is somewhere out there, and that the small human self is, how can I say, is doomed to go through the drudgery of walking on this earth of pain, suffering, and struggle. And so we have created this belief deliberately throughout the eras of mankind in order to perfect the illusion of separation, so that we can realize compassion at a much greater extent. And so once we start removing those, that's why we call them veils of illusion, because they are just veils. They are not actual separation, right? So once we start removing those veils of separation, and so what is usually called awakening, I will call allowing fusion. And so we start allowing fusion to be the truth of who we perceive ourselves to be. We start realizing that we don't become more separate. like needing to not be in the midst of everyone else, needing to go and live removed from everyday life. That can be a part of the journey, but it is temporary. And and any master will say this, and we see that there is always the moment of coming back to dwelling amongst everyone as a normal thing. Because though there is a part of our journey where we need to retreat into ourselves and away from the commotion of being a separate human, once we start really feeling the fusion and really, really being it and living it, then the commotion of separation that other human beings live no longer affects us. And we no longer need to identify with being a small, incapable human that doesn't have the means to transcend the challenges that present themselves. And that means then that we don't need to run away from those challenges, or we don't need to deny them or pretend they're not there, which is the normal thing. I remember um, until I started allowing fusion. So that one of my big tendencies was to try and sort of hide my head in the sand when when something really challenging showed up, and pretend, oh, maybe it's not there. And so I would go along postponing the looking at it and finding my way through it, just in order to believe that it's not there. And so I'm going to share, for instance, when I was 14, I got pregnant. And that was such a huge shock for me at the time, especially because my mom is a Jehovah's Witness. And at the time, I was actually 13, come to think of it. And I was even having Bible studies at the time, which didn't make any sense to me because I really didn't grasp the way things were interpreted. It was strange for me, the way the things were being read and explained to me. But anyway, so I got pregnant, and that was such a big shock, because a 13-year-old, and what the hell am I going to do with the baby? And my boyfriend was 16. And at the time, it took me like about, I don't know, a month for me to muster the courage to go to my mom, and tell her, I did a test and I'm pregnant. Because now, within all the context, it was just so shocking. And I remember, so my mom took me to the gynecologist and all that. Unfortunately, the lady was very sensible, and she actually indicated a place where I could go and have an abortion if I wanted to. It was never placed as, this is something. No, you have these options. You can have the baby. Or you can do this. And at the time, for me, it was the choice, but it was such a really hard choice, because there was that part of me that felt guilty, that felt that it shouldn't be done, that it was something wrong. Anyway, and I remember still, even after having had that abortion, that it felt so remote that for many, many years, I couldn't even admit to myself that that had actually happened, that the whole story had taken place. And I know all of you out there have stories similar to this, like in different contexts and of different natures or whatever, but stories that was so hard to digest, that we kept on pretending for many years that they didn't even exist. And only when I started allowing fusion, really, 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 did I really face this and see the guilt and the shame and all of those things. And I remember just looking at that young girl, and letting her know it's okay. It's okay, my dear. It's okay. Just come here. Let me hold you. Let me take care of you. It's okay. It's okay. And so, if any one of you out there feels this need to kind of deny something that has happened or that is happening in your life right now, if you are watching this, it's because you have started allowing fusion and you are on that journey. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be interested in the title. You wouldn't be interested in being with us here today. And so that means you're mature enough to stop wanting to hide whatever is bothering you, whatever seems too unbelievable to be true. You are mature enough to just take a deep breath right now with us and take the weight off your shoulders of want that wanting to hide our head in the sand. It creates a huge weight over here. It's like carrying a capsule all over, and you carry it on your shoulders to cover up your vision and everything, and to just pretend you're not living that reality. It's useless, because the reality will not change because we pretend it's not there. It will change because we take responsibility for being in it, and because we realize, wait a minute, I am not that person that lived that back then. So this challenge here right now does not need to be a small human self challenge. Now I have the privilege of being a fusion human, a human that is blending human and divine, and therefore I am safe. And if I am safe, nothing, absolutely nothing, whatever it is that presents itself now, is unsolvable, and most of all, is unworthy of my care, love, and attention. This is the most important thing, is that whatever it is that is in our reality right now needs to be worthy of love, care, and attention. Otherwise, it will not dissolve. It doesn't go away just because we put a cap on our heads and pretend it's not there. It just gets louder and harder and more suffocating, because that cap makes it hard to breathe. And if it's hard to breathe, it's hard to be aware and to be clear. So, um, for me, the journey of fusion has been a discovery of, oh, wait a minute, being a divine human is being more human than ever before. And once we really land in that humanness, it becomes not only a pleasure to be here, but a privilege. Wow, what an honor that we are in a reality where we can experience just about anything, and that we get to come full circle and realize compassion. Because, compassion is unnecessary if there is nothing to be judged. What on earth would it be for? Because ultimately, we are that seamless, placid lake that has no ripples when we are beyond this kind of reality. So it's this kind of reality that creates the ripples, and it creates the waves, and it creates the flavor and the aromas, and it creates the feelings and the intensities, and more compassion. So, really, Earth is like, I don't know, a mentorship for compassion. It is the place where we come to realize compassion. And there is no way to realize compassion without its opposite, without having to be challenged by separation. And so that's why we chose to come this way, to be able to have that experience of going beyond and realizing, oh, wait a minute. First of all, I've never been separate. Secondly, there is nothing to judge. And thirdly, I am safe no matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing, because I am a blend. I am not just a small human self going through the drudgery of life on earth that is supposed to be endless suffering and so on. It's not. It is not. So when a challenge comes up, it is time to, just sit back, take a few deep breaths, allow the fear, realize, okay, my cells, they know fear. They know fear better than anything else. I've been on earth for thousands of years. They know fear. I can't switch that button off, but I can choose how I want to experience my reality right now, even if the cells go into fear here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we take that deep breath and feel the honor of being in a human body, of having a human experience, and being able to witness the magic of transcending each fear, of transcending each challenge, of seeing how simple it is to overcome even what could seem to be the biggest hurdles, you know? And they show up, and sometimes something seems like, oh my God, how am I ever gonna move through this? But then you just take a deep breath and feel just the simple way that I've moved through everything else. And that thing just becomes that much smaller. And the more we sit back and allow our conscious awareness, our wisdom to guide us through step by step, moment to moment, no plan, no chart, no whatever, preordained destiny, no, then it just becomes easier and easier. And the more we allow it, the easier it becomes. But to go back again and repeat, the more divine we realize ourselves to be, the more human we become, and not the other way around.
Now I have to speak on one thing that you said, because when you said then nothing that happens in your life, nothing that has happened in your life can get you off track. And that's the key, because this breath is the strength, the empowerment of who we are as these physical beings, because it exists in our core and radiates out. And Norma would always say, oh, well, my soul goes out before me, like a red carpet. And I would hear her words, but I didn't understand it. And when I went to San Francisco over the weekend, it was amazing to watch. Wherever I went, people would stop and go, oh, it's so good to meet you. Oh, wow. And I mean, it was so genuine. You're so peaceful. When I checked out from the hotel, the guy goes, I want to stay in contact with you. And I was observing this going, wow, I have changed so much. Because the old me that was so fragmented was always go, 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 survive, survive, survive. I got to stay safe. I got to stay safe. But as you open up and you begin this journey of fusion, I like that word, integration, but it's even more. It's this fusion of becoming one energy, one consciousness, one choice. It's like this warm butter. We become warm, yummy, sweet butter. And people go, ooh, I like that. Because most humans are racing through their life. They're looking out there for their next event that's going to be good and surviving the moment. And that is how we live in our lives until we become so tired of it. Until we go, there's got to be another way to live. Something's off. Something is missing. And thank God I had that really loud within me so that I would stop and say, there's got to be something more. You know, when I work with my clients, they always go, well, when I get there. And I go, oh, no. Let go of that idea of a destination. Could you be here in this moment? And when you're walking through painful memory, it's the last place you want to be. But just like that experience when you were 13, Tanya, that little girl was so afraid, you know, but this breath, this compassion, it opens the heart, and we experience that part of us from such a place of, oh, come be with me. Come sit with me, sweetie. It's okay. It is the most magical energy to live in. You know, when I used to read Joel S. Goldsmith many years ago, back in the 80s, and I would read him, and he would write these beautiful things of soul energy and compassion and brilliant wisdom. And then he'd step out of it and be very human. He'd live in the separateness of, something's wrong with me, I've got to get better, I need to, I should. And he lived this boomerang life of being out of balance. But when you experience this energy from this place of conscious breath, and you encounter a difficulty, and you experience it from the divinity of you, not from the small mind of you, it opens like this, like a beautiful flower. No matter how dark it is, no matter how gruesome it is, and I speak that from experience, this divine breath allows you to sit in the presence of no matter what has happened. And the heart, my heart, which was so frozen and closed because it had been hurt so badly, it opens breath by breath, breath by breath, breath by breath. So today, all these many years later, I don't have to work at loving myself. I don't have to work at staying in the breath. And when I have a hiccup or an experience of fear, I respond instead of reacting. It is such a miracle gift that whenever anyone I talk to tells me how bad they are, what they experienced, I can look them right in the eye, say, oh no, you're not bad. Don't you see that little boy who was so hungry to be touched, to be seen? He needed to be loved so badly. Do you see him? And that compassion that I am holds this place of stillness for that person where they go, oh, wow, I wasn't bad, was I? I go, no. That is the miracle of fusion, because we were never separate. If we were separate, we'd be dead.
Exactly.
You know, the time Miranda would say that to me, like we'd be doing a memory and I'd be going, and she'd go, Serena, you didn't die. And I'd go, oh, yeah, I didn't, did I?
It's amazing that we can laugh at that right now. Gosh.
Seriously, because it would be, oh, yeah, I didn't die, did I? But I was so separate that, you know, that had to be a reminder for me. And, you know, this soul energy that we've always been chose to close the eyes to the divinity we were for me so that I could experience this darkness that was so extreme, so intense, so constant that I could make an absolute positive 100 million% choice. That is not what I want to play in. You see, when you say, I don't want to play in that, and you hear an energy of going, yeah, but maybe a little bit. That's when you don't ignore it. Pay attention to that. Don't run from it. Celebrate that you noticed that there was this tiny small voice that goes, yeah, but I really do like to do that still. You know, whether it's watch pornography, smoke pot, cut yourself, whatever, you know, whatever self-harm way you're doing it, and that part still wants to do it, embrace that part of you, because that's the opening to allow more of you to love you. You know, I always thought that it seemed so backwards. I thought the more you resisted it, you'd make it go away and then you could live your life. No, it doesn't work that way. No. This breath is the breath of allowing, of receiving. Oh, it does. It feels like warmth just cascading through your body, around your body. This magical energy of just, yes.
I'd like to add that, you know, like Serena gave a few examples here, but please don't take them as personally or anything. But so instead of them, so whatever it is that anyone uses to numb and escape,
Yes.
whatever it is, it could be having compulsive sex, it could be overeating, it could be smoking pot incessantly, it could be even actually smoking like 2 packs of cigarettes a day or something like that. Whatever it could be a kind of sport that you overdo, that you have to do in order to feel a bit better with yourself. So whatever it is that one needs to compulsively do to somehow fix the way you feel, and but that is only temporary, that only lasts for a short while and then you need more, that is what we're talking about here.
Yes.
And that is when that little voice comes, you know, oh, but I like it so much, do we really need to leave that, you know? And another thing, other than listening to that voice, and but not, of course, not interacting. Listening is different from going into a conversation. You don't need to convince that part of anything, it doesn't need to convince you of anything, you're just listening. Another important thing is to realize what you get from whatever it is, because there lies the key. Because for sure you're afraid to lose what you get from that. It can be comfort, it can be pleasure, it can be whatever it is, that whatever thing, practice, whatever activity, whatever it is that it gives you, and that you're really afraid that if you let it go, you will not have that anymore or ever again, and then you will have to live in suffering forever after. This is the belief of that part of you that gives you that. So that part of you is actually doing a really great job by having created a way to somehow keep you a little bit more how can I say, I don't even, it's imbalanced, it's totally imbalanced, but to give you a little bit of fun while here on earth, though it's totally imbalanced because it creates these peaks, and then you never find really the soft spot, the stability to allow the part that is really suffering, because these mechanisms are created because there is some part of you that is really suffering, that needs to be heard, that needs to be held, that needs to be acknowledged and embraced. And until that part, until you see it, you will be trying to find ways to numb the pain and to pretend it's not there. And then, of course, it doesn't go away, because numbing it or pretending it's not there, no matter what you do, will not work. And that's why many times people run away from this breath that we share, because it's very raw. Like it initially, when a person starts really doing this breath and landing within, it feels like heaven. It's like, oh wow, where has this been? Wow, this is so wonderful. The thing is, the more you stay, the more silent things become, and the more then the noise, the screaming, the pain, the crying, the whatever that's going on with those parts of you that are really hurting, the more you hear that. And so many times people, say to me, oh yeah, I just forget about the breathing. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You don't forget about the breathing. You just pretend that you don't know, that it's not your responsibility, that there's nothing you can do. Because remembering to, and because, I mean, everyone breathes, obviously. And making the conscious breath a practice is essential initially. It is a practice until it becomes the norm, until you are naturally present in your breath all the time. And so you don't need to stop for a while to breathe and so on. But you do now and then always need to step back and just breathe for a while to come into that deep clarity and allow it to really allow it to guide and to hold you. So just allow that beautiful, warm, refreshing breath to hold you. And then when you come into that, it feels like heaven, right? Now, stay with that. In your inner heaven, you will be able to look at hell and not run away. So that is the real part. That is the real thing, the real deal. That is not something that numbs you, though it makes us feel really, really great, but it also makes everything really, really, really vivid. And whatever is there to be felt is there to be felt, and there's no way around it. It will
Can I
just
add
present
something?
itself. Please do.
So when you have the ability to look at hell, what happens is you begin to connect to the reality of this breath consciousness, and this consciousness starts to become less real. And so you begin to experience, oh, I'm not my thoughts. Because in the beginning, most people, when they start this breath practice, they believe that they're this. But as they begin to do this breath more and they learn truth and they begin to experience this stability within their physical body, within their consciousness, there's an identification that blossoms of the real person, the authentic identity of who we are. And then that is what enables us to respond differently because we're not trying to figure it out. You know, when people do affirmations, they're still in here. I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I deserve to have abundance. Well, it's said here and it goes to about here. There isn't a physical, and this is the key, there isn't a physical connection to it. But when you have this breath, like you were sharing, Tanya, this breath begins to ground you in the body, ground you in this moment, this real experience, and things slowly start to shift where you begin to experience your life from a different awareness. So that when you have these things, they seem to bubble up because this breath is aliveness and it disrupts the dissociative energy that is asleep or is talking, but we've been ignoring. And so, this breath, as it brings us into the core of ourselves, helps us to be more real. Am I going to pay attention to this or am I going to intentionally ignore it? Before, when you're unconsciously ignoring it, you really don't know what you're doing. But as you begin to practice this breath and you go, well, I'm not going to pay attention to that. And then you have the experience of what it feels like to ignore it. It helps you become more real and honest. Oh, this really doesn't feel good. I'm miserable. I'm hurting. Oh, why? Well, that damn part of me is screaming for my attention, but I don't want to listen to it.
Yeah, just shut up.
Yeah. You know, in my book, when Norma goes, I called her on the phone. I go, oh my God, there's this kid and it's just crying and crying. And she goes, and what did you do? And I go, well, I'm ignoring her. She goes, well, what do you want to do? And I go, I want to hit her over the head with a hammer. And Norma goes, would you be willing to do something different? And I'm like, oh, okay, sure, fine. I mean, you know, I was such a willing person. And so she goes, go and sit down next to the child. And because I was so separate, I was sitting down in a separate room with this child while I was on the phone, walking around the room, talking to Norma. But for me, that kind of vivid imagery is how I lived my whole life. But I felt the difference of paying attention to that part of me that was sobbing and sobbing. And it was like a light bulb went on. Wow, I'm not hurting as much. Well, maybe this stuff works. So that's why I'm grateful for my journey this lifetime. I unequivocally, 100%, do not want to play in the darkness. It feels like crap to me. But, you know, everybody has their journey and it's the perfection. And hear that, everyone that will listen to this show, that is listening now, it is the perfection of your journey. And I know you don't even get that, but it's like when you're in such trust, no matter what shows up, oh, look at that. And the response is so, oh, wow. You know, life is sure interesting, isn't it, Tanya?
Oh boy, yeah. And you know what? I was gonna add that today this has been really we've touched really very essential points, and I'm sure that you guys out there is kind of like the mind is not kind of being able to grasp half of this, and so I invite you all to at tomorrow or later on or whatever to re-listen and to pause and with each part that really touched you, and each time you pause, just breathe with that and stay with that for a while, for a few minutes, for half an hour, for an hour, for whatever, so it's kind of like, you can use this sharing from today like a kind of a practical workshop that you do in your own time for yourself, and that you can use um, to break up the pieces into more digestible chunks of consciousness that then serve you on your journey, as they have served us, and of course they will serve you in their own way, and so you will find your own creative way of using this that we are sharing from our own journey and our own personal experiences, because each journey is very unique,
Yes.
and the way each one lives it is very unique, and that's just the way it's supposed to be. So we don't really like to give people recipes on, like steps. You follow these steps, and your integration is gonna be successful or whatever. It doesn't work that way. There is no kind of structured step by step process that you can follow that will work 100% of the time for 100% of the people. So you will just have to discover with your own soul, with your own essence, with your own wisdom in this journey of fusion, how it works for you. But above all, and what is common to all of us, is stop denying, to stop shutting the door, is to just allow oneself to stay, to be present, to allow the breath to be a safe space, and through that safety, that sense of, oh, it's okay, I can relax here, then allow the doors of consciousness to open, and the path towards more fusion to show itself moment to moment. But one thing is certain and sure. And I'm taking a deep breath before saying this. There is no way to be whole if you are bitter. If there is bitterness
Yeah.
in you towards anyone or any part of your journey, no matter how wise you are, no matter how integrated, no matter what, that needs to be addressed. Because bitterness is like when those termites go into the wood and they start boring those really small little holes, and then they start becoming bigger and bigger, and they destroy the wood from the inside. Bitterness is like that. That's what it does. So if there is bitterness, even if it's only towards you being human, towards you having to be here on earth as a human being, freedom just will not be felt and lived. And it will always be elusive. It will always seem like it's around the next corner, but it's not really here, just because of the bitterness. So there's no way around it.
And Tanya, I have found for me, when I'm not real clear, I take pen and paper and I slow it down for myself by writing.
Yeah,
And
me too.
to discover, oh, what is here?
Yeah.
What is it? And as I keep breathing and I allow myself to write, the brilliance just floods the page, because nothing we feel is wrong. So if you are feeling bitter, it's just a part of you that is in tears, in pain, that needs to be acknowledged. I was bitter. I don't know if you're surprised by that. Oh, God. I mean, now I can look across my whole life and there's not one drop of bitterness. But did I hit it head on? No, it was breath by breath, moment by moment, discovery by discovery. Because this brilliance that each one of us has leads us. And that's what's so wonderful. You know, when I work with a client, I go, and what does your soul say? Ask your soul, where does soul want us to start? Sense. So it's not me with the answers, it's their brilliance. And
Exactly.
that is such a beautiful way to discover this beauty within each human being. And every person I work with, I'm sitting there and I'm looking into their
In awe.
face. I'm in awe, and I go to myself, God, I just love this person so much. You know, my heart's like boom with this
Yeah.
love for them. And wow, it's such an honor, because what is the truth is this divinity that each and every single one of us on this planet are is so profound that we, the small human, doesn't have to figure out how we're going to heal. Norma didn't have to know how to help me heal. The Kuan Yin energy, the soul brilliance energy was the breath by breath, step by step. And when, you know, in 2007, I've shared this with a couple of clients. 2007, she took me to the library. It was our first outing. And we were sitting in the library parking lot, and I was so scared to go in. And she said to me, she goes, I need to speak to your soul. And I said, oh, okay. And I moved out of the way, and my soul moved forward. And Norma looked at this loving face that was looking back at her, and she said, I'm really tired. And she took a breath. She said, I don't know how much longer I can do this. Now, this brilliant soul knew that there were lots of ears listening. And she looked at Norma and she said, I understand, but we're nowhere close to being done. That's all she could say. I mean, she could have said, look, we haven't even scratched the surface. We haven't touched this. But she knew she couldn't dare, because all of the aspects that were listening. So maybe I didn't hear it, but all these other parts did. And Norma took a breath and went home later that day and had to deal with the truth. And how did she do that? She sat with the truth. We're nowhere near done. So she knew that soul brilliance of her had to fill her with more passion, more energy, more everything, so she could keep doing this journey with me. That was only 11 years in. Yeah. So when we try to share with you the magnificence of this journey that you can take with your own soul, your essence, oh, please give it a chance. It's so beautiful. And this that we've shared today, you can stop and listen to pieces of it and go, where's my resistance? Why don't I like what Tanya is saying right here? And maybe write down what all the different parts of you are saying. Hell no, I'm not going there. Whatever, you know. It is a profound experience.
Story of my life, people not liking the stuff I say. And then people loving it. Isn't it true, Serena? With
Yes.
you as well.
You know, unfortunately, I'm still, because I'm still new at this. And I've had a lot of people tell me, I can't do this. It's too hard, Serena.
No.
And I have to sit there and go, I love you. I
Yeah.
honor your choice. And then I have to let them go. And I've fallen in such deep love with them. But I have to trust their journey. You know, I am amazed at this one woman I work with, because she doesn't have children that is a catalyst to keep her moving forward. And yet her passion to do this work is huge. so that each story that she encounters and she almost falls flat on her face, I just keep holding her and loving her, because it isn't easy to face all of the pain that we've encountered.
And it's interesting because sometimes people say, oh, or they can have this, oh, I can't pay for more sessions or something like that. But if it were what is considered to be in the norm of a health issue, people would bend backwards to find a way to go to whichever doctors or do whatever treatments are necessary for that thing. But when it comes to the really profound healing, which are these inner wounds that actually affect everything else in our health,
Mm-hmm.
it's very easy to make up excuses and to find reasons why not to. But
To
the mere
retreat, to actually retreat and say,
right,
no.
yeah. And the main reason is because living in victimhood is very productive. It seems to be. Okay. It seems to be productive because it is a way of getting energy. And living without it is kind of so unknown, so out of the norm, that the resistance starts there. It's like, you know, if I'm not going to be a victim anymore of anything, then who am I?
Oh, yes. And it's
Wow.
unfamiliar, and we humans love familiar.
Yeah.
Give me, I know my pain. I know my limitation and my lack. I know it. This is what moving to Portugal is for me, Tanya. Can I move? Holy smokes. Not knowing the language, not knowing how to read it, write it, speak it. Not, I mean, trusting so completely. And the beauty of it is it's allowed more of the old to bubble up so that I can look at it, be with it.
Yeah, and with that, it's really interesting that I'd like to share here that, and one thing is this thing that you had to step up and become independent, because you would not be coming over here and having everything done for you, like us being around you all the time, like us having to solve any issue that shows up all the time. That would not happen because it's not supposed to. But for the independence to be there by the time you're here, a lot of shifting has been necessary. And you've never turned your back and said, no, 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 that's too much for me. Never, ever. You just go on and, okay, independence. Okay, I need to be independent. Okay, I'm gonna be independent. Sure thing. And that independence, and the reason why I'm talking about it, is for everyone, us being able to live with each other and to have deep connections and profound love with and for each other does not mean that we are not fully independent as well. Because in order to be able to live a seamless, flowing reality, we need to be the real creator of our reality. And for that to be the case, that independence needs to be there. And then, of course, the people, the situations, the places, they all show up to play within that context of creating each of our realities that come together and then create a greater reality, right?
Yeah.
But that independence for anyone and everyone is really the essential thing, is owning our journey, owning it,
And that's
owning the
part of the
fact.
safety. That's part of the safety
Exactly.
is, can I be safe enough to move to Portugal and trust that I am led every breath, every moment? Well, that safety comes from this experience that's been layered one on top of the other for years and years and years. So, yeah, but when a gulp comes up, I don't ignore it. And
Yeah,
it's not, and you know what? Being independent is so much better than needing to be dependent on other people for everything. It's awful. It's
it is.
awful when you're so dependent on everyone. But my dear sister,
It's time, right?
I have to go to work, my other
Yeah.
job. So,
Yes, yes. And it's been a beautiful, beautiful share here. It's like we've been speaking for about 3 hours, but it's only been 1 hour.
yeah.
So the time has magically expanded a lot. And we've got a friend here who says good morning and afternoon, because it's my afternoon and your morning. Hello, SB Explore. SB Explore. And Joanna, thank you very much. And it is equally peaceful to be in your presence.
Yeah.
So I am really lucky. Every single day I say, oh gosh, I am so lucky to have these really special sisters that we have allowed ourselves to love each other so profoundly and to allow each other to be a part of each other's lives, and be independent at the same time, you know?
You know, it's like you can't imagine what it feels like to be one essence, one breath, one thought, one choice. You can't imagine it. It's so far outside the scope of what is in the present day if you are still traveling this journey of integration, of fusion. My experience with you and Joanna is so sweet. It is so yummy. I don't know the
Yeah.
other word. And the thought that I'm going to be there as a normal way of living, it's like, oh my goodness, what a gift, you know? So continue on this journey, everyone. It's so exquisite because you meet
There is
people on
nothing,
there.
Serena, Joanna and I used to play a lot with each other, and we used to say, can we take the whole bundle? I mean, is this not too much?
I
Like, it seems
know.
so big, and
Wow.
now we say, gosh, has there ever been any other way?
Yes. Yes. Oh my. And on that note, I end with such love for everyone.
Thank you. And there's loads of love here on the chat. Thank you, Barbara.
Yes.
Thank you. Liberté is gonna be here somehow, sometime in Portugal. She's gonna pass by. Hopefully, you're already here, Serena.
Oh yeah, wait. Wait. I'm definitely gonna.
Thank you,
Oh
Leanne.
yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your love. It's been such a pleasure to play here today. And next month, we don't have our session
Oh yeah, we're
because
playing.
August we're pausing. And
Yes.
then on the 9th of September, we will be back.
And maybe by the 9th of September I will have an idea. We'll see.
Yeah, who knows? Oh, there'll be so much news by the 9th of September because there's loads of stuff going on here, shifting and changing and creations and
Yeah.
stuff that, whoa, it's like 10 years packed in 2 months.
But I do need to say that I missed your co-host, your furry twinkle. Where was he today?
I don't know where he is. He's somewhere in the back over there. I don't know
I've
where he's
seen
gone.
one thing of him, so I
He
missed.
went to find my son for sure.
All right. I love you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Love you all. Thank you very, very much for the honor.